The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Thank you, Tally Olson. I am back. We are Comfortably Zoned. Ralph Tycho here, Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. I get to speak to Jerry Feitelberg today about the Warriors. How cool is that? Jerry, welcome back.
Oh, thank you, Ralph. Thank you for having me. And we can talk about the upcoming basketball season, especially from the Warrior point of view.
I would love to, and I've been looking forward to that, educating myself through you because you're an avid follower and reporter. I'm not. And quite frankly, what with the way my life has changed and baseball has become paramount. And so I have a lot to learn, but I do want to reminisce with you about the Al Addles days and the championship. I think it was 1975. Where were you?
Well, I was living in Los Angeles at the time, and I remember I wasn't following the Warriors at that time. I had grown up in Boston, and I followed the Boston Celtics probably time of around 1950, I think, as I started listening to them when I was about 9 or 10 years old. And, of course, they had that great championship run where they won 11 titles in 13 years with Bill Russell, Bob Cousy, the Jones brothers, Bill Sharman, and, of course, Havlicek, and just a great, great team. And but there were only 8 teams in the NBA in those days. And so the Celtics were loaded with talent, and it was great to follow them, and I was very fortunate enough to be able to go to Boston Garden and see a couple of the finals where they won the championship. So there was good times. And then when I lived in L.A., I listened to Chick Hearn.
Chick Hearn. Take you out of the popcorn machine.
You got it. And Chick Hearn. And I was fortunate enough. I was working for a small pharmacy chain in Los Angeles. And one of the young men I worked with was friends with the general manager, who was Fred Schaus at the time. He was friends with Fred Schaus's secretary, and she got us tickets to the NBA Finals in 1970 and 72 when the Knicks played the LA Lakers. And,
I'll bet you know that Fred Schaus was Jerry West's coach at West Virginia.
Yeah.
And, go ahead.
Yeah, I remember that. And Jerry West, I had the privilege of seeing Jerry West play against the Celtics many, many times. And then I got to see him play with the Lakers against the Knicks. And the outcome was the same. They lost. But things turned around in 73. It
sounds to me like you really became aware of the Warriors when the Lakers got Keith Jamal Wilkes from the Warriors. And that was things couldn't have been it couldn't have been a worse move for the Warriors giving up on Wilkes. I don't remember what the circumstances were, but I went, whoa, when they did it. And
wasn't Wilkes part of Showtime when it was Magic Johnson in the early 80s? I think that was he was on that team.
I think he might have still been on that team. He gave them a number of good years. And so I like to think back of Alvin Addles. The one thing on that team, that championship team that I remember, is that the year before they won the championship, they traded Nate the Great for George Johnson.
Yep.
And he was adequate. Johnson was.
And didn't they have a guy? Didn't they have a guy by the name of Clifford Ray too that was in there? The center.
Yes.
He and George Johnson were the big guys on that team, and
right.
And you're going
and Ray
back 40.
came from Chicago. I know, and I can't remember where my keys were or where I left them, but I could remember those days vividly. And it's one of the things that keep us young is our memories, and it's on all different levels. It's fun to reminisce with you. You haven't lost a step, and you're my inspiration for I would say getting old, but it's not getting old, it's getting older. So as that happens, I look to talk to people who are getting older and still have what we in our tribe call our seichel. And we've talked about this often, Jerry and I, off the air, on the air. Our memories are our blessing, and that's what we're left with in the end. And it's cool that you have those memories. I'm going to segue to the present and what's going on with the present Warriors. What do you look for this season? What do you like? What don't you like? You are the Warrior Maven of Comfortably Zoned Radio Network.
Well, the Warriors did. They opened up the season on last Tuesday night, and they fell short. They lost 108-104 to a very good Phoenix Suns team. The Phoenix Suns acquired Kevin Durant last year in a trade with the Brooklyn Nets. This year, they made a trade with the Washington Wizards to get Bradley Beal. They got rid of Ayton, their big guy, DeAndre Ayton. They made a trade with the Portland Trail Blazers, and they got this Yusuf Nurkic. And he's a big guy. He was in the middle. On the Tuesday night games, Beal didn't play because he was out with an injury, and the Warriors didn't have Draymond Green in the lineup. So the Warriors went with a three-guard lineup, a small lineup to start it. They had Chris Paul, who the Warriors got in a trade with they sent Jordan Poole to the Wizards for Chris Paul. And they had him in the backcourt along with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson. Kevon Looney was in the middle at the 5 position, and Andrew Wiggins was the other forward. And
is Andrew Wiggins any relationship to the Wiggins that was with the Warriors in the 90s?
Wiggins' father did play in the NBA. I think his father's name is Charles Wiggins.
His father was solid with the Warriors.
Yeah.
Wow, that's another example of nepotism.
Sure.
And it's always a pleasure. I enjoyed, speaking of the early Warriors, watching Rick Barry's kids play in the NBA.
I enjoyed watching Rick Barry play.
Oh, yeah. He was slick. And I enjoyed him as a commentator too on KNBR for a long time. He's a little prickly, but not opinionated. Had opinions without being opinionated.
He was. I liked listening to him on the radio too. One of my favorite games that I saw Rick Barry play with the Warriors was back. It was either 1966 or the 66-67 season, because I took my fiance, the young lady that I married, to a Celtics game, and it went triple overtime. Can you imagine that?
Oh, wow!
And that was in the heyday of the Celtics, 1966. The Celtics, they won their 8th championship in a row. I don't think that's a record that will never be broken. And it was just a great game. It was a fun game. I think the team scored about almost 150 points each. Back in those days, they didn't have the 3-point shot, and the Boston Celtics could put up 130, 140 points a game. They just ran the ball all over the court. And we were talking about the Lakers, and with Magic Johnson, they were my second favorite team because they played the same way. They could put points on the board without using the 3-point shot. They just ran up and down the court. And the third favorite team that I loved was the motion game that the Warriors had, which Steve Kerr put into effect when he became coach in the 2014-2015 season, his first year as coach.
Wow. What's changed in Steve Kerr's way of looking at things since those early days of winning? His philosophy. What do you see anything that's different?
Well, no. They've always been strong on offense and using the motion game and moving the ball and finding the open man. That was the keynote of the Boston Celtics. Back in the days, when the first top 10 scorers in the NBA were never players from the Celtics. They didn't care who scored the points. They just wanted to get the ball to the open man. It didn't matter if Cousy or Russell or Sharman or Havlicek or anyone.
Or Heinsohn. Heinsohn would run that floor.
Yeah. Sure. They didn't. All they wanted to do was win, and that's what they did. And that's what Steve Kerr did with the Warriors. And when they won the championship in 2000, their first championship in 2015, it didn't matter to them who got the ball. The important thing was winning the game. But they had a lot of talent back in those days, and they were able to. Finally had a big man in Andrew Bogut, and they had Steph and Clay. I think Harrison Barnes was on that team, and they had Andrew Iguodala, and they had Sean Livingston, and they moved. They had to make Iguodala the sixth man, and Andre had been a starter his entire 10 years before coming to the Warriors. He had been a starter in Philadelphia, and I believe he played for the Denver Nuggets. And
who's the GM on the Warriors? Who's responsible for all this movement and the success they've had?
That was Rob Myers. He took over from this guy Riley, and Rob Myers became the general manager. Now Myers is doing something else, and I can't think of the young man that's doing it now. He was a former player. But anyway, the Warriors this year look to be. I think they're going to be better than they were last year. Last year they had trouble winning on the road, and and on the schedule, 6 of the next 7 games are on the road. They have 3 games. I think they started in Sacramento, and then one of the games is New Orleans. I can't remember the third one. But the big problem that the Warriors had, and it showed up last year in the playoffs, they had no way to handle a big guy like Anthony Davis of the Lakers. He was just too big for them, and he could score at will. And during the season, when they played Denver with Jokic, Jokic was just too much for them to handle. Looney is 6'9", and the Warriors picked up a player, Dario Saric, who's 6'10", and Saric looks to be a big improvement of what they had last year. They had JaMychal Green, who was about 6'8", and Green could make some 3-point shots, which they like. But Saric is also a 3-point shooter, and in his first game he had seven points and 7 boards, and they made a 3-point shot. So I think he'll help the second unit. Of course, when Green gets back, they'll move Chris Paul to the second unit, and they have Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody. These two guys are coming into their third year. Moody played very well in the first half Tuesday night. He scored 11 points, but I think he made several threes, which was very good. Kuminga, I think, had 13 points, and he's playing much better. And with Chris Paul getting him the ball, feeding him the ball in the second unit, his production should go up. The big thing will be, and it's very important that the Warriors do this, is they have to play better defense, and they have 2 things that they have to do that's going to help them immediately. They have to stop making turnovers. They led the league last year in turnovers, and one of the reasons they traded Jordan Poole is because he turned the ball over a lot, and his shot selection was poor. With Chris Paul, they got a better ball handler, and he doesn't commit turnovers. And in the game on Tuesday, they were good for 3 quarters. They only committed 6 turnovers in the first 3 quarters of the game. But it all went south in the fourth quarter as they turned the ball over 5 times. And they only scored 18 points. And they weren't making shots. Steph Curry was 4 for 14 from 3-point range. And Klay Thompson was 3 for 11. So they only shot 25% as a team from downtown. And if they can shoot 38 to 40%, it makes a big difference. And had they made 2 more threes, they would have won 110-108 instead of losing by 4. So they just weren't making the shots on Tuesday. But it's a long season, and they should be good.
Good. Hey, I just thought of an early Warrior memory, and this goes back to 1959 when they were the Philadelphia Warriors, and Wilt Chamberlain was in his rookie year. Marty Rose, my lifelong friend from the 2nd grade on, and I went on the subway alone, 13 years old, to see the Knicks play the Warriors one night with Wilt. Now, what made this come to mind, you mentioned a triple overtime. If you look back in the record books, the night we went, the Knicks and the Warriors with Wilt, and my God, he was dominating. Incredible. In any event, Johnny Green in triple overtime pulled down the rebound to end the game that the Knicks won and beat the Warriors that night. Now, the game, we had no way to call home. And the game lasted, at least an hour longer than our parents were expecting us to be home. We scared the crap out of both families. But we made it, and at age 13, and it goes back to age 10, Marty and I were navigating ourselves around the city. Buses, subways, this and that. It was a different world. You wouldn't have your kid out there for all the money in the world for in today's day and age. I wouldn't want my kid to leave the basement in today's day and age. So the Warriors go back in my head for a long time. When I went to camp, the equipment manager was one of the directors or counselors or whatever, the equipment manager of the Warriors. So we got to have Paul Arison come up and give clinics on weekends. Not every weekend, but on weekends. And Chuck Bednarik of the Philadelphia Eagles as well.
Yeah.
It was good being a kid. And it's equally good being an adult to remember what it was like as a kid. Am I right, Jerry?
Oh, absolutely. You brought up Wilt Chamberlain, and I'm going to give you my Wilt Chamberlain story. One is a basketball game, and one was an incident in L.A. I forgot what year Wilt turned pro, and the Warriors were playing the Boston Celtics, and it was the first meeting between Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain, and I was at that game. I was unbelievable.
Oh, wow.
That was I don't remember who won the game, but
it was 1959, if I'm not mistaken.
Somewhere in there.
And,
yeah. And Wilt, Wilt towered over Bill Russell. He was maybe 4 inches taller, but Russell played him tough, and Russell had a better supporting cast than the Warriors did. And it showed up in the fact that they won 11 championships in 13 years. And
how about that Red Auerbach and his judgment, his ability to build a team year after year? And,
absolutely.
He was tremendous.
He was the first coach in the NBA to put 5 black players on the floor at the same time.
Wow. I keep forgetting that because we shouldn't even have to think about that.
Yeah.
But it's true. And Sam Jones, I think, let me name them if I might. Again, Russell, Sam Jones and Casey Jones, they weren't brothers, but they were the Jones boys. And up front, Sat Sanders.
Yep.
And who was it? Willie Knowles?
Willie Knowles did play for them for a year. You know, when I first started, when Bill Russell,
who is that? Who is the 5th black player that
I can't remember.
That? Okay, so I'm not the only one.
Might have been John Thompson.
Could have been. He was Russell's backup at center for a while.
Yeah, could have been.
Could have been Wayne. No, Wayne Embry was still with Cincinnati at that time.
Could have been Willie Knowles. He played with the Celtics for 1 year.
Yeah. Great memories, Jerry.
So the second Wilt Chamberlain story we had is I was living in Boston. I think it was 1966, and I came out to San Francisco and L.A. with 2 friends, and we were in L.A. on Restaurant Row, and Red Fox used to have a restaurant there, and we went into Red Fox's place, and we're having dinner there, and Wilt Chamberlain and a friend were at the next table. Can you believe that? So
wow.
this jerky guy I was with went over to him and asked him for an autograph, which was a no-no. And Wilt said, just blew him off. But
yeah, I'm eating now. Could you leave me alone? It's wow. Good memories, Jerry.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. That was over 50 years ago, 57 years ago. It's a long time. And I haven't thought about it in all these years till just now.
But you didn't miss a beat, and I really thank you for giving us this Warrior update. I learned a lot, and like you say, it's going to be a better season than last. They have a ball handler, and that makes all the difference. You got to have somebody to get to feed the ball, and if you don't have that, and if you're turning it over, your team is in peril. So
yeah, the problem that the Warriors have is that they're an older team now. Steph is 35; he'll be 36 in March. You have Draymond Green and Klay Thompson are both 33. Chris Paul is 38. So you don't really have a lot of young people. Kevon Looney, I think, is 27. He's been in the league a long time, but he's only 27. Kuminga is 21. Moody's about 20 or 21. So they got some. Sarge is 28, I think. So they got some younger players on the team. And of course, when you get older in basketball, the injuries they have start to pile up. So if they can stay injury free, they'll be okay. So they have some. They have some other players. They got a young guy from, I can't think of his name, but he was from Indiana, and he played pretty well in the preseason. So he's a backup center, and they got Corey Joseph as another guard that they have, and they've got a couple. They got a couple spots left on the roster if they need to get them. So. As I said, they're going to be fine. The competition in the Western Division is unbelievable. Denver is loaded. They won the championship. Sacramento, the Warriors are playing Sacramento tomorrow night, and Sacramento had their best year last year. They made the playoffs for the first time in many years, and they took the Warriors to 7 games in the first round of the playoffs, and they lost Game 7, 126-125. So you got to look at their lineup. They got De'Aaron Fox, is there Keegan Murray. They got I can't think of they've got the Sabonis, Domantas Sabonis, who's an all-star player. So they got some talent on that team. They got Harrison Barnes, who played for the Warriors many years ago, and they got a taste of the playoffs. They want to get back, and they're coached by Mike Brown. And Mike Brown was a coach with the Warriors for several years, won 4 rings with the Warriors as an assistant coach, and he's a defensive specialist. And the Kings had no trouble scoring points. They averaged over 118 points a game last year, but their defense was suspect because they allowed 114 points per game. So they got to work on their defense. If they can do that, they're going to give the Warriors some trouble. Denver, as I said, is strong. You have to look. They're building a great team in Oklahoma City. A lot of young players with Shea Gilgeous-Alexander and I can't think of his name. I think Chet Holmgren. Then they have down in San Antonio. San Antonio drafted the highest prized rookie available, which was Victor Wembanyama, the 7'4" Frenchman, and he scored 15 points last night in his first game with the Spurs. The Spurs lost to the Mavericks, but they're going to be good too. So there's going to be a lot of competition in the Western Conference this year, and so it's not going to be so easy for the Warriors. They're going to have their work cut out for them.
Well, let's hope it's a year where everybody stays healthy. How about that?
Yeah, that would be great. That would be wonderful.
All right. Including you and Isla.
Yeah, that's for sure. Now,
all right. Give her my best.
Yes, I will. But I'd like to remark about the mass shooting in Lewiston, Maine last night. As you know, I went to Bates College, which is in Lewiston, Maine, and the college was halfway between the 2 shooting sites. One employee of the school was injured, and 2 students were close by, but they weren't hurt. The school is on lockdown, and the shooter hasn't been found yet. And most of the people in the area, Maine, from Portland down to New Hampshire and Massachusetts, all points bulletin out for this guy who took, I think 18 people died, and we just can't get any gun control, or any remedies to stop the sale of assault weapons in this country. It's a shame. It's a real shame.
Well, you got lobbyists for the NRA talking to every representative as we speak. They are meeting with them in the halls, and it's crazy. I can't even blame the representatives anymore. Yeah, who's electing these people? It comes down. What has the ideology of this country come to? It's crazy.
It is.
On every level, not just gun control. How about hospitalization? People go bankrupt. People with insurance go bankrupt because they can't pay the out-of-pocket expenses. And not just a few people. A whole bunch of people are literally losing lifetime savings because you can't go bankrupt until you spend your savings.
It's unbelievable. We spend the most money on health care in the world, and yet our people get the least amount of service for it. It's kind of interesting. You go into countries like Denmark, you go in Denmark and England, and they have health care for all their citizens. The people in Denmark know that they pay high taxes, but they know from the time a child is born until they get old that there's health care available for them. And, it's a trade-off, so they pay high taxes, but they get a lot for it. They don't have to worry about their elderly parents getting ill and not being taken care of. And I've told you, and I've told many people, everybody's going to get sick at some point in their life, and they're going to need health care. There's just no two ways about it. And, we are supposed to be an enlightened society, but we're not. And these people, a lot of people, especially the right-wingers, believe that you have to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You have to take care of your own health care. But it's really a societal issue. A healthier society is better for everyone. The more health care that's available, it keeps people healthy, and it actually reduces costs because when you go into the hospital, you're not as sick as you would have been. So,
how about this? Disease spreads. So you have people without getting care spreading disease to people who are healthy. And I don't understand how people don't take that into consideration. It's frightening.
Yes, it is.
We are living in perilous times on every level.
Well, we have a classic example of not doing the right thing when the start of the COVID disaster, the pandemic started due to COVID-19. We did not take action properly enough, make sure everybody had face masks. We couldn't get them injected because we didn't have the vaccine at the time. But, the administration at that time, the Trump administration, was very slow in getting it. And he told the governors in the states, you're on your own. Well, this was a national issue. It needed leadership from the president, and it didn't happen. And so we lost over 1 million people to this disease. So the thing is, you have to take care of these things, and that was one thing. There was, just on a smaller scale, several years ago in Oakland, we don't know if it was illegal immigrants or people who were illegally. There was an outbreak of tuberculosis, and that spread quite rapidly. And so you want to have programs to prevent TB and to stop the spread of tuberculosis. It's just a matter of good common sense to have people have health care. And if they don't, what can I tell you? Like I said, they will spread disease, or they'll become diseased themselves. and it's just a terrible way to have a society.
Yes, yes, it's all a matter of selfishness too, if you think about it, because these big insurance companies, these big drug companies, it's not enough that oil companies, as an example, not enough that they make a fair living profit. Instead, the chairmen of the boards make like $1,500 a day more than their workers, and their workers are not being paid enough to keep off of food stamps, to keep off of subsistence. So there's got to come a time where the unions become more effective than less effective.
That the union movement has been stopped cold. At one time, when I came to San Francisco was a strong union town, and now it's the unions have been busted. I think in years ago, maybe a third or 40% of the workers were unionized. Now it's down to about 6 or 7%. They had enlightened CEOs at that time who were paying their people, but you go back to the 70s and the 80s when you had these corporate raiders. The corporations, public corporations, report their earnings every 90 days, quarterly, and so a lot of companies were content. Well, we're making money. It's not a big deal. Okay, if the stock is this price, it's fine. But if it got too low, these corporate raiders said, "Oh, this company's not doing well. We can go in and take over," and that's what happened. And so now the corporations have got their feet on the accelerator because they have to show improvement every 90 days, or their stock price will go down. And of course, if their stock price goes down, the CEO gets fired. So they're going to do everything in their power. So it doesn't matter if they lay off people. People who have good jobs are getting laid off because they can't carry the baggage anymore. And they've done other things too. Companies have replaced their pension programs with 401ks, which saves them money. And it's all a numbers game for the Wall Street guys. And
right.
That's all I can tell you, and it's not going to change.
Well, knowledge is power. So it's nice that we know that, but how do we turn it into power so things can change? Now that we know what you're telling us so succinctly, how can society, and this is rhetorical, of course, but how can society make the changes before it's too late? Because Rome burnt, that type of thing. Societies don't live forever, and it's amazing that democracy is in peril the way it is, and it's scary, Jerry.
Well, one of the things that over the years is that a lot of people don't know who their local representative is in the California Assembly or the state Senate, and they may know their congressperson, they may know who the senators are, but a lot of the people are trying to scratch out a living, trying to survive, put food on the table. But one of the things that people can do when there's an issue is to write these people. They don't get letters from people now. If there's an issue and they get 8 or 10 letters regarding the issue, they start to perk up. They will pay attention to you. So that's one way of getting things done. For example, in Alameda, they have an organization known as CLASS for the airport, and Oakland Airport is trying to increase operations on passenger flights or whatever. But they pay attention to what's going on, and they try to reduce the number of flights so it doesn't disturb the people in the neighborhood. So that's one of the things they can do. The other thing people can do is, and it's hard to do. You work all day, you come home, you're tired, you want to have dinner and watch a little TV, which is fine. But if you have a problem, you can call your local representative's office and let them know that there's a problem, and get active that way, or have a group, or there's all kinds of things that you can do. You can volunteer to work for a politician on the local level. So you get some insight as to what's going on, and be involved in local politics. And if you have something to say, and they think the politicians think that you can be of value to them, they'll listen to you.
Hey, here's something we could do as Democrats. Let's get the vote out the old-fashioned way.
You just brought that out. I just got read today on the internet. I think it was the New York Times. The state of Georgia's redistricting plan was rejected by a federal judge in the state of Georgia because it said it was restricting black people's rights to vote. So they have to redraw them. They got to redraw it just like they did in Alabama.
Wow, that's good news. Finally, some good news. And on the Trump side, he's got his fellow accusers of they are pleading guilty, and they're part of the guilty plea to stay out of jail is that they've got to testify against Trump. So I look for good things to happen there. I hope his ratings don't go up every time he's accused of something or he's indicted. He seems to raise more money and look better in the polls. So, hey, well, let's hope for. I was going to say, let's hope for the best.
Yeah, it'd be nice. Be nice if he's been indicted. It'd be nice if he does go to trial. He's been losing so many things. I don't know if they have the goods on him or not, but it appears that they do. But next year will be very interesting to see what happens in the courtrooms in Washington, New York, in Georgia.
Hey, it'll also be very interesting to see what happens at the voting booths next year.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The Speaker of the House, the newly elected Speaker of the House, is Jim Jordan with a suit on instead of shirtless. He's the same thing. Right. He's just as bad as Jim Jordan. He's anti-abortion. He's the women of the country should know they want a national anti-abortion law passed. Well, they got the Roe v. Wade eliminated because they said it was a state's issue. So they wanted a state's issue so each state could do something. Now they want a national. You can't figure out what the hell they want to do. I can't. All I know is that they don't want to have women have the right to control their own bodies. And women have to realize that this is going on, and they're going to have to vote. And it's very important for them to vote.
Well, women should band together and gild their husbands secretly one night. Have a big gelding party. It's just my wish. I don't think it's ever going to come true, but it's a fantasy of mine. What can I say? Could you imagine them conspiring and getting little switchblade knives? Because it won't take much, just a little cut. Anyway, thanks for being here, Jerry. I hope I made you laugh a little bit, and I hope I asked the right questions.
Yeah, it was good. The basketball stuff was good. Of course, as I said, I go way back following pro basketball for so many years, and doing the Warriors the 4 championships have been fantastic. It's been a joy to watch this club.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Jerry, we're coming to an end. Thank you very much for being here. Keep coming back. Love you, man. Keep it up.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, Jerry Feitelberg is a treat. Come back soon and listen. Come back soon and be a guest, Jerry.
I will.
Adios.
Thank you, Ralph.
Adios and happy trails.
Bye-bye.
Zig Zag Man.
The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices, and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.